My name is Ralph Rio with ARC Advisory Group, and we'll be talking with Alistair Stubbs, Vice President for Asset Lifecycle Information Management at Bentley Systems. We will review a pragmatic approach to ensuring asset information is always up to date and evergreen in asset-intensive plants. So I got a couple of questions for you, Alistair.
Sure.
You recently became the leader of the development of PlantSight, which is Bentley's digital twin solution for the process industries. Where do you see the greatest business need for digital twins in the process industries?
Well, Ralph, I think that one's quite easy. The oil and gas industry is seeing, if you like, tectonic shifts in their market in the last few years, obviously driven by the energy transition. And we're seeing lots of oil and gas producers increasingly find it difficult to raise capital for new projects. I think with a combination of the impacts of COVID and this energy and the energy transition in general, we'll probably look back on this time period and say this was peak oil. So we're seeing a lot of our users pivot away and look for renewable energy sources. However, that of course means they need to fund that activity, and they're looking to maximize the efficiency of their existing brownfield asset base. They're looking to improve the way they operate and run those to maximize their regulatory compliance, their safety records, and they're looking at digitalization and the implementation of a digital twin as a means to do that. So I think we're providing in PlantSight a simple means to enable those owner-operators to build a digital twin, to sustain that digital twin throughout operations, and then, of course, enable their workers to access the rich information they need to undertake their tasks, to ensure that it's done safely, that they've got the necessary information to make the right decisions at the right time, and follow all of the necessary regulations, procedures, and processes that ensure that everyone is kept safe.
Yeah, what I'm hearing in that is having the information necessary to do your job well, and able to coordinate when multiple groups are involved in a particular project. Very interesting. As you well know, Bentley also offers AssetWise for asset lifecycle information management. Can you compare that with PlantSight, and what are the benefits to existing AssetWise users?
Well, obviously those products work together very, very well. AssetWise and the lifecycle information management products are used by our users to manage the registers of their engineering information, whether that's documents or engineering tags or registers of valves, manage the process of making and executing change to that engineering process, that engineering data, in a controlled way, and especially dealing with the challenge of concurrent engineering effectively. What PlantSight adds to that story is it gives you that visualization layer, the ability to see that information in a more contextual way, and of course link it, most importantly, to the operating asset. If you like, we have an engineering digital twin, and right next to that we have the operating digital twin with all of the parameters, the alarms, the current operating status, and PlantSight begins to pull this information together. So you can imagine you can use and view your engineering information, and then also combine that and look in a familiar and interactive way at the operating condition of that plant at that point in time. So really the two are bringing together these different worlds to make a very much more complete whole.
So just a little clarification on that. It sounds like AssetWise is more about managing the information, management of change, for example, and then PlantSight is more around visualization of that information for people who are actually in the operations of the plant. Is that appropriate?
That's a good breakdown. Asset any information that's working in an operating plan is only as good as the level of trust and confidence that you've got in it. So you're exactly right, Ralph. Asset-wise and lifecycle information management adds the ability and gives our users the ability to control change, to assure the quality, the completeness, and the integrity of their core engineering registers. But of course, a digital twin is bigger than just that engineering data. It's much, much bigger than that. So PlantSight has the ability to bring in the information from other sources and aggregate it to make a much larger whole, and then provide easy access to it, whether it's a three-dimensional visualization with graphics that are either from an engineering source or from a reality mesh built with our context capture capability, or two-dimensional information, or even just rather in traditional one-dimensional tables of information as well.
Excellent. Thank you for that further explanation. Another question for you regarding the user needs in brownfield sites. You mentioned before how the digital twins are used by people in maintenance and operations. Could you explain that a little bit, how they use it?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of different usages in brownfield sites. It's an area, going back to my original comment about the pivot in the market and the focus on existing assets. It's a key area that owners are looking to us to support. And they're looking to and make it simple to build digital twins as quickly as they possibly can to maximize the benefit they can obtain from it. But of course, you're doing that with the existing data that's already in place. So this is where our context capture capability really helps to build models and interactive models with basically photographs of the asset as it is today. But what that actually gives you is it gives you a really realistic, highly visual means of viewing your asset. And we're seeing all sorts of extra uses from this, from remote inspection, enabling users to keep people safe, to undertake inspections remotely, to apply greater expertise in some cases, because that aren't necessarily available on site. So we're seeing the use of a digital twin not just make things more efficient, but actually enable organizations to leverage the full breadth of the knowledge and the experience that they've got within their teams. And I think one of our key use cases that we've seen for this, it was highlighted at a year in infrastructure conference, was by a user of ours, Rocket Mine, who has really taken this approach and is really starting to use this visual means of inspections to pull together large teams and drive real value from their business.
Neat. Yeah, we've started to see interest in people wanting to use a 3D model to for a more intuitive way to find an asset and get information about it by operating people as well as engineering. A plant could have hundreds of valves in it, and how do you know you're really at the valve that you're really interested in? And having it in part of a 3D model makes it easy for everybody to find the right information when they need it. As you know, most organizations in the process industry have invested heavily in digitalization and are awash with data. What advice would you give them for making the business case for spending more money on a digital twin solution?
I think what we're seeing and what our users are asking for is, you're exactly right, they're awash with data, and it's almost awash as in a flood of an overload of data, if you like. So really, one of the things that we're seeing people adopt a digital twin for is to enable them to cut through that mass of data, to identify what is the right data and build, if you like, this concept of a trusted digital twin that they can rely on. And we're seeing behavior shift. Instead of making a decision and then going out and auditing and inspecting to check that the information is right, what we need to do is cut out that inefficient step. And by consolidating the information they've got, by validating it, by building some extra validation processes in, it means that they can trust the data that they've got. And instead of maintaining 3 or 4 copies of the same thing, they're able to maintain it once, which then, of course, drives more efficiency. So I think I'd say your description of a wash is correct. I think it's, and that in itself is a challenge. And I think the demographics of the user base have a higher expectation of how they want to navigate and find information in order to do their day-to-day activities, just as younger engineers come through with a more IT first approach and higher expectations of the tools that they expect to use in their role, and being able to find the right information to be able to trust it and then act on it, I think is really the overall key objective of plant site, a digital twin, and of course the underlying information in the supporting systems.
Yeah, one of the problems that we have with this flood of information, I like the word flood better than a wash, is the data quality issue. And it sounds like you talked about validation and stuff like that. If you have poor data quality, like you mentioned before, you can't trust it, and then you won't use it. Now, the validation process that you offer make it much more trustworthy and usable as a result. Would you agree with that?
Yes, very much. And of course, validation can apply in many different ways. So we are doing work to enable users to automate a lot of the validation, so checking for missing values. We're doing work to automate conversion of PNIDs using artificial intelligence into machine readable ones. And that, of course, is filling in gaps in the documentation and in things like asset registers. So again, we're then able to cross-reference information between systems and compare them and say it's missing here, or this ID we don't recognize, etc. And then of course you've got the manual processes that go on around making a change, where there's an engineering review. Is this proposed design fit for purpose? Can we construct it? Can we maintain it? Is it going to be cost effective through its life? And that consolidating and managing the comments and the feedback from that process all add together to build a digital twin that can be trusted. But the thing that we are saying to our existing users in brownfield in particular is they have the data they've got today, and that quality of that data shouldn't be a barrier to adopting a digital twin strategy. What's more important is that they take that first step and they use the digital twin to continuously improve the level of quality and validity and integrity of that data. So just as a result of all of their engineering activities, their maintenance activities that's going on, they're putting in place just enough impetus in the system, if you like, to continuously improve. So over a period of time, they're getting better data. And the digital twin is part of achieving that. It's the first step. It's the infrastructure, if you like, that will let them achieve that goal. So we really encourage people take advantage of the capabilities in the digital twin system, in Bentley's, in plant site, to use it to help you clean up and validate and improve the trust in your data.
Wow. I'm hearing a lot of things related to having good data that cascade into much better business processes and more efficient operations or effective operations, and both from an engineering viewpoint as well as operators in the plant. Thank you very much for that discussion. Very interesting. We've been speaking with Alistair Stubbs of Bentley. This video was created by ARC Advisor Group. We advise industrial suppliers and manufacturers on technology trends and market dynamics that affect their business operations and competitiveness. Our website is www.arcweb.com. Alistair, thank you very much for this this good discussion, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ralph.